Thank you, Kent, and thank you, Gil, for that inspiring introduction to the launch of this exciting new park. I am Lucinda Sanders, the lead of the consulting team comprised of designers, ecologists, and engineers who has worked alongside of the River Heritage Conservancy to envision the future park. Before Scott and I take you on a journey through this diverse landscape, I would first like you to get to know the site of this future park just a little bit better. Even before we put pencil to paper, the team and I spent weeks on the site throughout the seasons and in all types of weather, getting acquainted with your landscape. I'd like to share with you some of our first impressions from those visits. What is present on the site can best be described as awe-inspiring. In fact, from day one, we called it the raw awe. From the sheer beauty of the site perched above the Ohio River in clear sight of Louisville, you can take in a panoramic view that stretches upstream to the Devonian fossil beds of the falls of the Ohio State Park and downstream to the K&I Bridge. The vastness of the river takes one's breath away as its mighty and powerful force moves more than ships, collecting, gathering, transporting, and depositing upstream fragments. Even in its calmer state, the river is an adventuresome challenge to experienced kayakers seeking the thrill of Thumper and its close cousin Bambi. This aqueous landscape reaches far inland, deep within the 630 acres. Bodies of water from the kayakable Silver Creek crossed by the Ohio River Greenway to the meandering Mill Creek to Loop Island and Marshall Woods all define the character and ecology of the site. Seasonally, floods overtake much of the landscape, blanketing it with stillness, a silence, and a hush. It is stunningly beautiful. We know that the landscape has been, and to a certain degree, still is being manipulated in ways that are not in the best interest of people and ecology. While many of these footprints are still visible, what is truly remarkable is the healing power of nature. Look at what we found here. Beautiful emerging woodlands and adaptive flora, including majestic trees, sedges, the snowfall from the cottonwoods. The fauna is there for the looking, including box turtles, eagles, pileated woodpeckers, spiny soft-shelled turtles, black racers, indigo bunting, and so much more. Whether traveling on foot, by bicycle, or in a car, there is already much to see. This is a site to celebrate. It was from this close reading of the site that the River Heritage Conservancy and the design team committed to celebrate and enhance the views of the river and the sky. We are committed to protecting nature and enhancing wildlife and creating opportunities for adventure. We believe that the drama of low water and high water are experiences to capture, but likewise the drama of motion and stillness are to be equally celebrated. We are committed to providing opportunities for spectating and, when confident, participating. Leading and teaching grow out of these very opportunities. The goal is to grow a community of stewards who will love and care for this park and invest in growing the next generation of park users and stewards. The last 6 months have demonstrated the salvation of the out of doors as a place of health and recreation, and a place to wave to others, friends and strangers alike. Parks, when well planned, can be the foundation for living and experiencing the values of democracy. What better place to come together than in an environment of adventure designed to take your breath away, a place to experience the raw awe. Now, let's take a brief historical tour. You all are familiar with the important legacy of Olmsted and parks in Louisville. This next park can be additive. It can be the missing northernmost link and riverfront destination in the multi-scaled system of loops of parks responsible for the identity of the region. But why this park in this location? It turns out that the site itself is quite storied. Most visitors to this landscape know the stories of George Rogers Clark and of his brother William Clark of Lewis and Clark fame. But do you also know that these 630 acres have contained indigenous settlements, fishing camps, farm fields, dueling grounds, the staging ground for a conspiracy against the United States, a frequently flooded frontier town, and illegal landfills? Why all of this here? It all comes back to the shape of the earth, something we call geomorphology. As a result, 2 truly great currents have flowed through this site, currents that tie these several hundred acres to the stories of a continent and the many people who have called it home. The first flow is the river itself. One of the great North American rivers, it drains parts of 12 states. Like any great river, it is and has been a conduit for more than just water and sediment. Fish, birds, wildlife, and humans all follow the river. And somewhere near to the site, it is believed that the Underground Railroad carried slaves to freedom. But this is not simply any location on the Ohio River. The very site is unique in that the exposed bedrock of the falls split and constrict the river's flow. Because it formed the single significant barrier to navigation, people and goods pooled and eddied, founding the adjacent towns of Louisville and Clarksville. But if the bedrock of the falls slowed movement along the river, it was also the easiest place to cross in low water. Animals and humans could follow exposed limestone from shore to shore, and as a result, the Buffalo Trace was the second great current flowing through the site. Although named for the bison, it was a path for other species as well, and for the human populations that depended on them for food, clothing, and other necessities. Later, the Buffalo Trace became a wagon road, a settlement and trade route, linking the Wilderness Road to the Oregon Trail. Although designated a state park and part of the National Wildlife Conservation Area, the supreme geological fact of the falls and the stories that convey the role of the site as a dominant continental valve have been lost or obscured through subsequent activities. The park seeks to become a place where those stories can be revealed. But why, with such interesting and important stories to tell, is this spot still so dark today? Mostly it is attributable to the Great Flood of 1937 and the precise location of the levee, which was subsequently built to protect the surrounding communities of Clarksville, Jeffersonville, and New Albany. The levee hugs those communities, leaving this void attached to the rhythmic breathing of the Ohio River, something the future park seeks to embrace and to celebrate. But if the levee is a protector, it is also a divider. So figuring out how to connect the park to your communities was the first challenge we faced. Let's look more closely at the communities and how we propose to connect them. Here's Louisville across the river, Jeffersonville to the east, Clarksville to the north and northeast, New Albany is to the west, and the Falls of the Ohio River is up the river to the east. We are proposing major park connections to each town for cars, bikes, and pedestrians. And for bicyclists and pedestrians, we are building off of already existing and proposed trails, the Ohio River Greenway, the New Heritage Trail, and the Discovery Trail. The park will be a destination on the Falls City Loop, linking the park across the Big Four Bridge and a future link on the K&I Bridge. And finally, we are connecting the water from the Blackston Mill access, offering a 4.5-mile paddle down Silver Creek to the Ohio River. All of these systems together yield an intentionally connected park. After this, how did we decide what goes where? This diagram represents the decision tree. We agreed to first respect and protect the existing ecology, then to work with the topography, which informs where water will go and basically directs us where to put which program. When we consider ecology, roughly 1/3 of the site is still being manipulated for excavation and fill. But in the areas that are presently undisturbed, the site is healing from those former activities. Our goal is to protect and enhance that which is thriving and heal that which is ecologically unhealthy. We seek to make a park that maximizes biodiversity and ensures people can coexist, thrive, and learn in those environments. We are proposing 250 acres of enhanced and preserved woodlands, 150 acres of new meadow, 50 acres of new urban forest with over 75,000 new trees. The topography of the park is extremely varied due to natural and man-made activity. We plan to leave much of the form of the land the way it is, only strategically shaping it to make roadways, trails, and platforms for community spaces. We are seeking a strategic partnership with the Army Corps of Engineers to mitigate the significant erosion of the banks of the park, a result of the enormous force of water flowing through the lower tainter gates. This shape of the land will outline the future patterns of flooding. We know that significant seasonal flooding is a reliable annual event, occurring mostly in the later winter months. As the climate changes, flooding is projected to increase in volume and frequency. The plan for the park works with and even embraces this phenomenon, as you can see in this video of flooding, which is barely perceptible in the most frequent flooding, but is significant and visible in higher floods. Another way to see this is to break the water regimes apart. The lowest water levels allow access to the paths of the lowland landscape and is ideal for paddling on the flat water of the Quarry Pond and Marshall Woods, as well as Silver Creek and the Ohio River. A moderate flood, which is anywhere upwards of 35 feet higher, still ensures 100% access to the roads and main trails, as well as offering a front row seat to the flood. A major flood, which would rise another 10 feet, will close the park but keeps any buildings dry that are on the interior and allows movement along the top of the levee. In summary, one half of the site is in lowlands. The other half is in the mid to highlands. This phenomenon tells us how the program needs to be deployed: high and dry, low and wet. This park is a park that is designed to be connected, to be replete with meaning and stories, to be accessible to all, to be a healthy ecosystem, and to be resilient. I would like to hand this over to Scott now to explore with you how we interpreted the raw awe of the site and embedded program to create the experiential qualities of the park. Scott.